What the hell is a Celtic Guardian?
I grew up in the early 2000s, the late 90s kind of area. You know what was really freaking popular back then? Or starting to get popular? Anime. Specifically, anything revolving around trading cards or collectible figurines. I'm talking about things like Pokemon, Digimon, Tamagotchis, and the topic of today's video, Yu-Gi-Oh! I was never into Yu-Gi-Oh! I knew a lot of kids who were into Yu-Gi-Oh! I saw the cards everywhere. I can't count on my hands how many cards I saw in the principal's office every time I went in there because they were getting confiscated off of other kids. Don't ask why I was in the principal's office so much. Anyway, I never got into it. I was into Pokemon, I was into Digimon, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Never stuck with me. I don't know what it was. Just the colors, the design, the theme, how it played out. Too complicated for me, I guess. I don't know. But there's one thing that has bothered me for a long time. One very specific card. I have cats hissing in the background somewhere. There's one specific card that's always bothered me in Yu-Gi-Oh! One that has always been in the peripherals of my vision, and today I'm going to address it. Celtic Guardian. Now, I get it's an anime, and the Japanese culture doesn't have the best grasp on other cultures. Their designs, their textures, their aesthetics, and they've gotten better at it in recent decades. But what in the fresh hell is this? What kind of Tolkien-esque wet dream is this thing? Apart from the elven aspect of it, and that's barely of any kind of interest to the theme, there's nothing Celtic about this design. And that bothers me. Because, as you all know, I am an aficionado of all things Celtic, Gallic, and Proto-Indo-European in general. But mostly Celtic. So today's Let's Draw, we are going to not just reimagine, but redesign and perfect the Celtic Guardian. Let's get started. Now I know what you're all thinking.
Alex, why can't you just let things be the way they are? Why do you always gotta be a perfectionist and try to redesign things?
Because I like to, and it's fun, and if I don't let my creativity out, it becomes an all-encompassing infection that rots away at the core of my mind, driving me to the very bowels of insanity, until I want to rip my luxurious hair out and throw myself through a window. Anyway, today we are going to begin, as always, with a circle, and then I've said this a million times, you want to start with the head, because me personally, if I get the head wrong, if it's too big or too small, it bothers me. And again, I'm a perfectionist, so I've got to keep everything absolutely perfect, or at least as close to perfect as it can be. Which was kind of difficult for this piece, because normally when I do these videos, it takes me 30 to 40 minutes to draw the picture, right? This took me over an hour, and it's smaller than the other ones, so I'm really not sure what the actual hell happened there. But then again, I'm out of practice. I haven't done one of these in like 3 months, or, whatever. And, well, I'm out of practice. It's been a weird week for me artistically. It's been a weird couple of weeks. I've been really out of it, and I'm trying to get back into it, trying to finish some comics, because anyone who follows me knows that I go months at a time without posting, and I'm getting bored of working on the animation that I'm working on, so I need a little break. I needed something fresh. And like I said, this has kind of been sitting in the back of my head for a while, and I figured I have today off. I'm not doing anything significant, nor do I desire to. Let's make a Let's Draw. You've not done one of those in months, you lazy cunt. So here we are. And as you can see, I've already got a large majority of the body down. I really like when to mess around with sizes and do different body types. And I noticed, as one does, the more I do them, the better they get. The proportions in this particular picture I'm really proud of, and I was really excited about early on. They were just looking right. The face kind of bothers me a little bit. But by the end of it, I'm not heartbroken. And it looks, well, it looks fine. The aesthetic I'm going for in this, as I stated, is an authentically Celtic based. It is going to be kind of fantasy in a lot of its aspects, and it's going to have kind of a maybe a retro 70s, 80s kind of fantasy vibe to it. At least that's what I got from it. But the rest of you may not feel the same way. So, I mean, we'll see at the end what you think. I am going to keep as many aspects from the actual card as possible, because as much as I like things to be historically accurate, I like authenticity as well. And again, perfectionist, I gotta try and make it look right. And right to me is historically accurate, but authentic to the original work. And a lot of that is because I may not like the designs of other creators' work, but I want to respect it as much as I can and keep as many of the elements as physically possible, which, surprisingly, wasn't too difficult with Celtic Guardian. At least I think I did a good job. But again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and I'm sure the large majority of you will have a different opinion. Working on the torque right now, because I noticed a big thing with the Celtic Guardian car is he doesn't have a torque. And how can you have Celtic in the name of a hero-based avatar or card or whatever, but not have a torque? And a torque is a traditional neck ring worn about, well, the neck, by a large number of different Indo-European tribes, but it's primarily known amongst the Celts and the Germani, or Germanic tribes. A lot of the body is done here, going on to the belt and the rest of the outfit. A lot of this came really, really naturally to me, and I feel it went smoothly despite how long it took. But again, I draw Celtic-based stuff on a semi-daily basis, if not weekly. So it'd be weird if I didn't just dive right into it and nail it. I hope that's not to toot my own horn there, but I do know what I'm doing for the most part. And like I said, I'm trying to keep as many of the elements and the shapes and the idea of the original card in mind, while at the same time keeping it historically reminiscent. And I noticed with the Celtic Guardian card, he wears a weird tight bodysuit, which, as sexy as that may be, not really accurate to that time period or that culture. So I'm going for more of a gambeson with an undertunic kind of design here. The bracers will be for the most part the same, although I kind of make them look more of a leather design as opposed to two metal ringlets with some cloth in between it. Because again, I like to go for practicality as well, and it's artistic liberty. I can do whatever I want, but again, I do want to keep more or less to the theme. Taking a lot longer than I thought to do these bracers. I only did the one arm too. Here we go, I'm adding a sleeve. And this, of course, will stay green with the original card, which is one thing. If there was anything right with the original Celtic Guardian card, is that it has a scheme of green, which, as we know, is kind of the national color of Celtic nation, specifically Ireland. Even though Ireland is not the only Celtic nation. Technically, most of Western Europe is Celtic, but that's a whole other discussion entirely, and I've explained this before in 4 or 5 other videos, so I'm not going to bore you guys with that. But yeah, I liked that they had a green kind of concept going on. The helmet was for the most part all right, at least the idea being a tall kind of dome helmet without any face plating or ear plating. A lot of Celtic helmets were like that, and it had spires off the side of it, which a lot of Celts did. I go a different direction because there was never anything quite like what you see in the card with actual Celtic armaments. But again, we gotta sacrifice the fantasy for historically accurate here, while at the same time keeping true to the theme. The sword I thought was fine for the most part, minus a few key details. The Celtic Guardian sword really just kind of looks like a typical European sword. It doesn't really look like a Celtic arming sword. So I added the little flanges at the pommel of the sword, as you saw a little bit ago. And here I go doing the hair. The hair was for the most part fine. As much as I hate that derpy He-Man style hair, during that time period and for a long time before, it was very common amongst various European tribes. So I add very little alteration here. I think for the most part it comes out nicely. In addition, I made, contrary to the original card, as you can see, is a mustache, because much like the Torque, no self-respecting Celt is without a mustache. Which is ironic, because the vast perception of the Celts and other Indo-European tribes was that they were barbarians, which means bearded people. But in reality, the Celts very seldom ever wore beards. Only a few specific tribes regularly let their facial hair grow out to that extent. The Celts were a very vain people who were consistent with maintaining their facial hair, keeping it nice and well kempt and grooming and all that. Very, very stylish people for the time, contrary to Roman propaganda. But what else is new? Going into what I was talking about the helmet earlier, I'm adding wings instead of the flanges. Because the Celts like to do all kinds of crazy stuff with their helmets. They like to put all kinds of spires and even straight up metal statues and stuff on them, which is wild. And I just kind of went with the typical, like, Vandal-esque wings, because that was simple and it matched, I felt, more to the original material, which again, I'm going for keeping to the theme as much as possible. Here we go, putting in some basic coloring. I'm going to do some detailing, which you don't see because it took a lot of time and it was just me putting textures in place of the colors. But I kept to the color scheme as best as I could, as you can see. I maintained it. I gave him a shield in addition to the sword, which the original Celtic Guardian card does not have. But, again, artistic liberty, I can do whatever I want. And there he is, the historically accurate, and, might I say, a bit more stylish Celtic Guardian. I hope you guys enjoyed my rambling. I doubt any of you missed it over the past couple of months, but here you go anyway. Like I said earlier, a new video is on the way. It's a really long one. I'm going for like a full episode length thing with this next project. It's going to be a while though. I'll try and get smaller little animated skits out as I regularly do. But until then, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I will see you all in the next video. Whenever that may be.